The dust swirled, gritty against my teeth, a constant companion in this bustling city. Even now, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the great harbor in hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, the air thrummed with a relentless energy. Donkey carts rattled over cobblestones, their drivers shouting in a dialect I was slowly beginning to grasp. The scent of roasted fish and spices hung heavy, mingling with the salty tang of the sea. I clutched the papyrus scroll tighter, its fragile edges already softened from my anxious grip. The librarian, a stern man with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of all the knowledge within those towering walls, had directed me this way. The Serapeum, he said, his voice a low rumble, for matters of such antiquity. Each turn brought a new wave of unfamiliar sights and sounds. A group of philosophers in their simple robes, debating fiercely in the agora, their voices rising and falling like the tide. A priest, his head shaved and adorned with intricate gold, hurried past, clutching a censer that trailed fragrant smoke. Egyptians, Greeks, Nubians, a vibrant tapestry of faces and garments, all moving with a purpose I could only guess at. The towering Pharos lighthouse, even in the fading light, cast a long, watchful beam across the water, a silent sentinel guiding ships from distant lands. Its sheer scale still took my breath away. To think of the ingenuity required to build such a marvel. A sudden commotion erupted nearby. Shouts, a clatter of something heavy falling, and then a wave of panicked murmuring rippled through the crowd. I instinctively drew back into the shadow of a colonnade, my heart pounding. Alexandria, for all of its wonders, felt like a city where fortunes could shift in an instant, and the currents of power ran deep and unseen. I peered out cautiously. Two hulking men in livery of royal garb were dragging a struggling figure down the street. His cries were muffled, his bare feet scraping against the stone. What had he done? What were his crimes? No one seemed to intervene, their faces averted, their pace quickening. A chill snaked down my spine, despite the warm evening air. This was Alexandria, the jewel of the Nile, a beacon of learning and progress. But beneath the glittering surface, I sensed a darker undercurrent, a reminder that even in the most enlightened of cities, the whims of power held sway. I adjusted my cloak, pulling it tighter around me, and continued my search for the Serapeum, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. My quest for knowledge, I realized, might be more perilous than I had imagined. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. All right, settle in, because today we're about to dive headfirst into the glorious, messy, and utterly fascinating cultural mashup that was Ptolemaic Egypt. This period of time was one of globalization, ideas, and discoveries, many of which contribute to our own world today. So here we are, 332 BCE. Alexander the Great rolls through, conquers Egypt, and then promptly pieces out just to kick the bucket a couple of years later after the worst case of man flu ever.
It could have also been poison. We don't. The official diagnosis is that he got sick and he died. But
I mean, and
it
it's
also could
hard
be
to know.
poison.
It's hard to know. We can only speculate at this point.
It was
But
ancient times. You could get a
yeah.
paper cut and die. Yeah.
It could have been anything. You could have farted wrong.
Anything.
Who knows?
Right, and that's dysentery. Dead. So,
oh my goodness. But completely on brand, he has no immediate plans for anything beyond that day. So when he's asked,
because why would he?
I mean, really. So when he's asked who will succeed him, he just says, "To the strongest." Like, that's the most man answer I have ever heard in my life.
So stupid.
It is. What caveman logic this is. Ignore the fact that he has a son and a perfectly healthy wife or even close family members. Before anyone can even ask what the hell that even means, he rudely dies, probably flipping the
Rude.
bird. Yeah, very rude. I
He's like,
mean,
bye.
bye.
Not my problem.
Peace out. I'm floating down the Nile with middle fingers raised.
I'm just imagining like this whole scene, like he's on his deathbed and he's like to the strongest, and then he just goes like, "Eh," and he's dead, and then he's just like flipping the bird to everybody, and his wife's like holding their baby boy, and this kid's just like, what the hell, Dad? God, like I'm right here.
And goddamn. So cue his generals squabbling. And eventually one guy, Ptolemy, the first naturally, says, all right, this sweet piece of real estate is mine. And just for extra security, he also does an Ocean 11 style heist of Alex's body and buries it in his capital, claiming that's what he wanted. No receipts on that one, though.
Of course not.
Of course not. This is why wills and testaments are a very, very important thing. Write
Well,
down
let's be
what you
real.
want.
Even if there was, he's not showing nobody. He'd be like, "Oh no, I looked at it. I looked at it. Don't worry about it." So, there, I promise.
Thus began the Ptolemaic dynasty, a family affair that lasted nearly 3 centuries, right up until Cleopatra VII. Yes, that one had her dramatic exit. Now, these Ptolemies, bless their Hellenistic hearts, were fiercely Greek. They spoke Greek, they thought Greek, they probably even dreamed in Greek. But here's the rub. They were ruling over a land steeped in a millennia of Egyptian tradition. It would be like if someone like China came in, took over the US government, and just chose to speak only Chinese and recognize Chinese traditions. Well, that's a conspiracy nut's worst nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know there's plenty of people who are worried that that'll happen, but
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, so that is exactly what happened here.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Surprisingly, though, instead of a full-blown culture war, what we got was this incredible, bizarre, and utterly unique fusion. Think of it as a cultural smoothie, where the Greek bits and the Egyptian bits blended together, sometimes smoothly, sometimes with a few chunky surprises. And
I hate the word chunky.
Chunky. It's just a piece of frozen strawberry. It's okay. It's okay.
Ooh,
it's okay.
Now I'm hungry.
Girl, same. So, while the Greek elite certainly held the reins, the ancient Egyptian traditions were stubborn, persistent, and basically refused to go quietly into the night. This dynamic interplay created a vibrant, multifaceted cultural synthesis that seeped into everything.
You'd think, with a new boss in town, all the old ways would vanish pretty fast. Nope. The grand temples, Karnak, Luxor, Philae, and Dendera, like the ones we discussed in the Isis episodes, weren't just dusty relics. They were still buzzing centers of religious life. And get this, the Ptolemies often supported and even expanded upon these temples, like the ones for Isis.
Mm-hmm.
But why? Because it's good PR, darling. Egyptian priests kept their gigs, ancient rituals, and festivals went on. Though sometimes they got a little Hellenistic makeover. And the Egyptian language? It wasn't relegated to some dusty scroll. Demotic and Coptic, its later forms, were still the everyday lingua franca for most folks, and used in administration and religious context right alongside Greek. The Ptolemies themselves were masters of the when in Egypt, do as Egyptians kind of strategy. Privately, they were Hellenistic to the core, but publicly, they donned the pharaonic titles, showed up at traditional ceremonies, and even commissioned their own likenesses in temple reliefs, looking all regal in their pharaonic garb. It was a calculated political move, a sort of ancient legitimacy branding to keep the locals happy and to avoid any nasty rebellions. Clever, right? So, imagine being we'll say, scarab on the wall of Ptolemaic Egypt. The soundscape would have been a fascinating cacophony of languages, a linguistic tapestry woven with the threads of power and tradition. So, what about Greek languages, though? He-owned Greek was the big shot in town. The language of the Macedonian Greek rulers, the language of bureaucracy, the language of getting things done. Greek was the primary language of the Ptolemaic bureaucracy, meaning royal decrees, official documents, tax records, legal proceedings, and military commands were predominantly written and conducted in it. The administrative elite, largely composed of Greek and Hellenized Egyptians, were proficient in the language. Alexandria, as part of the international port and commercial hub, thrived on the use of Greek as the common language of trade, and merchants from across the Mediterranean and beyond would have utilized it for negotiations, contracts, and transactions. Greek was also the language of the renowned intellectual institutions of Alexandria, this including the Great Libraria and the Museum, where philosophical discourse, scientific treatises, literary works, and scholarly exchanges were all conducted. For the Greek and Macedonian settlers and their descendants, as well as those for Egyptians who aspired to positions of power and influence, fluency in Greek was an essential. It was the language of court, of social interaction within elite circles, and a clear marker of Hellenistic identity. Numerous inscriptions on public buildings, temples, including those dedicated to Greek deities and Serapis, statues, and private dedications were all written in Greek, reflecting its public and cultural significance.
But let's not forget the OG language, Egyptian. In its glorious various stages, it was still the voice of the vast majority. It was like the comfortable old pair of jeans you just can't quit. This period witnessed the continued evolution of the language through its later scripts. Demotic, a cursive script derived from Hieratic, became the prevalent script for everyday writing, legal documents, and much of the indigenous literature by the Ptolemaic period. It continued to be used extensively for administrative purposes at the local level, for contracts, wills, and personal letters, and a significant body of Demotic literature, including stories, wisdom texts, and religious writings, flourished during this period. Now, Hieratic, a cursive form of hieroglyphics, continued to be used primarily by the priesthood for religious texts and literary works, so think of it as the Catholics use Latin today.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep, it retains its association with tradition and sacred knowledge. The iconic pictorial script of ancient Egypt, hieroglyphic, remained in use primarily for monumental inscriptions on temples and tombs, with the Ptolemies often commissioning temple decorations with hieroglyphic inscriptions that presented them in the traditional pharaonic manner. However, knowledge of hieroglyphic writing became increasingly restricted to the priestly class, while Coptic as a distinct script, using the Greek alphabet with some Demotic additions, fully emerged in the Roman period. The linguistic roots of Coptic, the final stage of the Egyptian language, were developed during the later Ptolemaic era, with phonetic shifts and grammatical evolutions already underway in the spoken Egyptian of the time.
So, what happens when two languages hang out for 3 centuries? They start borrowing each other's stuff. Linguistic contact was inevitable, leading to instances of borrowing and bilingualism. Both languages likely borrowed words from each other, although the flow was probably more significant from Greek to Egyptian, particularly in areas related to administration, commerce, and new technologies or concepts introduced by the Greeks. Evidence of Greek loanwords appeared in later stages of Egyptian.
Bilingualism was likely more prevalent among Egyptians who interacted with the Greek administration, engaged in trade in urban centers, or belonged to the priestly class who needed to interpret Greek decrees related to temples. Some Greeks residing in Egypt for extended periods may have also acquired some knowledge of Egyptian, though the extent of this is debated. The existence of bilingual inscriptions, such as the Rosetta Stone, written in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphic, provides context evidence of the need for communication across linguistic boundaries, particularly in official context. The discovery of numerous papyri containing legal contracts, petitions, and administrative documents written in both Greek and Demotic further highlight this practical necessity of bilingualism in certain sectors of society, as these documents often involved individuals from both linguistic backgrounds.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of fascinating to me is, when you look at like later, much later on, like in the medieval era and things like that, how common was it for like the upper echelons to be speaking like, 5, 6 different languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got like Catherine of Aragon who can speak like Spanish, English, Latin, French, blah 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 blah, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then but meanwhile, your peasant's not going to know nothing outside of their own language, and they're but
Mm-hmm.
during this time period, it's almost the opposite. I mean, yes, Cleopatra
Mm-hmm.
was really well known for knowing all these languages, but it sounds like for the most part, like the really rich people aren't even bothering to really know the local language that much if they don't have to. So
And funny enough, this is very prevalent today, and I'm sure you guys are so sick of us highlighting this, but I was born and raised in Texas. Spanglish is my specialty. So
Mhm.
just having these bilingual kids coming to the schools and everything like that, where they're literally having to translate for their parents. That happens all the time, and it's still looked down upon, and it's ridiculous how people are just like, learn English, speak English, we speak English, and it's like, learn Spanish. Technically, you're on their
Yeah.
land.
Well, I mean, it just, like I said, I just find it interesting because, you know, it's almost like we went back 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, yes, there are very educated people who are very wealthy in our nation who probably know more than just English, but like, that's not the given.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. And like, so what we're seeing here is I think there's this misconception that all royals and all important people learned languages because we would go, okay, well, if you're rich and connected and dealing with foreign trade and everything like that, you must be able to speak with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no, a lot of them have the same mentality as like some people today, like, well, if they're here trading with us, they should learn to speak our language, but yet not bothering to like, and really Cleopatra breaks the mold in people's minds when she decides to pick up all these languages, because she recognizes like, if I'm governing an entire people, maybe I should know what the hell they're talking about. And also, if I want to be a world player, I show up to these people's courts, I should be able to speak their language, which
Absolutely.
is, like, well, duh. But like,
It's
so
well duh,
I do,
but at this point in time, it is so far beyond what people expect of a leader in any capacity, much less a woman.
yeah, yeah, because then her uterus is floating around too, like the blood moon. How can she learn anything? Like, oh
Oh,
God,
she's
like,
hysterical. Uh,
like, oh, what? No, no, don't fill your brain with language. You need to know how you'll forget how to make babies. Like, I don't know. I don't know what their logic.
mhm.
The Ptolemaic period was also characterized where two distinct languages were used for different social functions. It also involved trigraphia in certain contexts, with the use of hieroglyphic, hieratic, and demotic scripts for Egyptian alongside the Greek alphabet. Literacy in both Greek and Egyptian was likely concentrated within specific groups. Greek literacy was prevalent amongst the ruling class, administrators, intellectuals, and merchants. Egyptian literacy was primarily found amongst the priests, scribes, and those involved in local administration and legal affairs. The majority of the rural population likely remained illiterate in both languages. Scribes played a crucial role in Ptolemaic society. Proficient in one or more of the scripts and languages used, they were essential for administration, legal documentation, religious texts, and the production of literary works. So, what is the linguistic legacy? It's huge. The continued use and evolution of the Egyptian language eventually led to Coptic, which became the language of the Egyptian Christian Church and is still used today. The vast body of Greek texts preserved on papyri from the Ptolemaic Egypt provide invaluable insights into the language, literature, and daily life of the Hellenistic world. The interaction between Greek and Egyptian cultures reflected in their languages contributed to the unique character of the Ptolemaic civilization and its enduring influence on the Mediterranean region. The Rosetta Stone, that magnificent multilingual rock star, remains the key to unlocking the secrets of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, bridging to epic civilizations.
Yes, very much so. So, language wasn't the only thing refined during this period. Forget Athens, because Ptolemaic Alexandria became the new hotspot for brainiacs. Thanks to some seriously generous royal patronage, the Ptolemies loved a good intellectual, apparently. Alexandria became a buzzing hub of philosophical inquiry and scientific advancement. It was like a giant intellectual magnet, pulling in brilliant minds from all corners of the Hellenistic world. While Alexandria didn't churn out entirely new philosophical schools like Athens did, it was a fantastic incubator for existing ones. Think of it as a super advanced philosophical debate club with endless resources. The ideas of Plato continue to exert a significant influence, with scholars in Alexandria engaging with his dialogues, interpreting and elaborating upon his theories of forms, the soul, and metaphysics. While the fully formed Neoplatonist school emerged later, the seeds of its mystical and metaphysical interpretations of Plato were likely present in the intellectual milieu of the time, as thinkers would have grappled with concepts of transcendence, the one, and the hierarchical structure of reality. The works of Aristotle, encompassing logic, ethics, politics, physics, and metaphysics, were also diligently studied and commented on in Alexandria. The library likely housed significant portions of his writings, providing scholars with access to his systematic approach to knowledge. I wanted to say systemic. No, it is systematic.
The systemic.
Systemic.
Like,
It's an
systemic.
infection. No, it's all good. Stoic philosophy, emphasizing virtue, reason, and living in accordance with nature, found adherents in Alexandria, as its ethical framework advocating for emotional resilience and acceptance of what cannot be controlled resonated within the often turbulent political landscape of the Hellenistic Era? Area? Wow.
The opinion of the area, sure.
I mean, technically it is an area, but we're looking at a period of time. So it is, in fact, an era.
Yeah,
I can't read anything today. It's fantastic.
and and I mean outside of the Hellenistic area, um, I mean the Romans loved themselves a good Stoic too. Like they
They
were,
did.
but they took it to like an 11. It's not even like it's. They were like, we like the part where where we don't show emotion, and we look upon down upon people who are emotional, but we also
Yes.
don't like the idea of not being of letting go. And like we still want to be in control of everything. We just want to be jerks and judge people for having emotions.
No, and unfortunately, I'm going to call it the Roman version of Stoicism is very much alive and well today. And I have actually
Oh yeah,
argued against it because it is so disgusting.
I love it.
I
Well,
hate it.
I just think you're being an emotional woman.
Maybe I am. You can't tell me what to do. I'm an independent woman. All right. So, meanwhile, the teachings of Epicurus, focusing on the pursuit of pleasure, understood as the absence of pain and disturbance as the ultimate good, also had a
Yes,
presence in Alexandria. We love a good hedonist.
yeah,
Contributing to the philosophical landscape with ideas about atomism and the nature of the gods. Various forms of skepticism, questioning the possibility of certain knowledge and advocating for suspension of judgment, also
Yeah,
circulated within Hellenistic philosophical discourse, challenging dogmatic assertions and encouraging rigorous inquiry. The
these sound
vibe,
like my people.
I
These right here. Like,
know. It
let's enjoy our wine. Let's not jump to conclusions and just take shit at face value,
yes,
but
and
enjoy yourself.
absolutely.
Like, God, like, why didn't the Romans grab this one? You know, like they had to go for the one where we bottle our emotions, and all of us 2,000 years later have still struggle with people not getting therapy.
Because emotions are feminine. You're not allowed to have those.
That's true. I forgot because you're so emotional
I'm so emotional. The
with that
vibrant
uterus.
intellectual atmosphere of Alexandria fostered debate and cross pollination of ideas between these different schools of thought. Scholars often engaged with multiple philosophical traditions, leading to syncretic approaches and novel interpretations. The patronage of the Ptolemies, who often had intellectual interests themselves, provided a supportive environment for these philosophical pursuits.
And we love that for them. We
Absolutely.
love us a good, we love ourselves a government who sponsors arts and the pursuit of intellectual stuff. Okay? The nerd stuff. We love that. So, but where Alexandria really sparkled, well, speaking of nerd stuff, was in science. The museum, basically a research institute, think ancient MIT, but with muses, was where scholars lived, studied, and collaborated all on the royal dime. In mathematics, Euclid, through his, though his origins are debated, spent a significant portion of his career in Alexandria, where he compiled his seminal work, Elements, which systematized and rigorously proved the geometric knowledge of his time, laying the foundations for Western mathematics for centuries to come. His work on optics also made important contributions to the understanding of vision. While primarily based in Syracuse, Archimedes, maybe you heard of him, also maintained intellectual connections with the scholars of Alexandria. His work on mathematics, hydrostatics, including the famous Eureka moment, and the calculation of pi were highly influential and likely studied and decimated. They were studied, y'all, in Alexandria. Apollonius of Perga made significant advancements in the study of conic sections, ellipses, parabolas, and hyperbolas in his monumental work Conics. These guys, they had some real original names, let me tell you,
Mm-hmm.
providing the mathematical tools necessary for later astronomical theories. Eratosthenes, librarian of Alexandria, is renowned for his remarkable accurate calculation of Earth's circumference using geometry and the astronomical observations. And he also made significant contributions to geography, developing a system of latitude and longitude. In the field of astronomy, we have Aristarchus of Samnos. Of Samos. It's not Samenos. There's no N. It's not the land of salmon. It is Samos.
It's Samos.
I don't know. I like, you know what? He's from Samenos. He eats salmon and sushi, and he loves it.
Yes.
Fun little fact that has nothing to do with this. Salmon sushi, like when you think of sushi and you think of salmon on top, that is
That is
not a
purely
Japanese.
American. That's
No,
purely
it's
American.
actually no, it's Norwegian.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we picked it up, of course, because we have also got. Oh, I don't know if anyone knows this. We used to have a lot of salmon, I suppose, but in theory, we used to have a lot of salmon. So, like, that makes sense. Versus, like, tuna is a lot harder to come by. You also have to go like hunting for tuna. You have to go find them. Whereas
Mhm.
if you just sit tight, the salmon come to you. Um,
True.
so I mean, you kind of know where they're going and like coming and going. So yeah, just like fun little fact, And of course, Aristarchus loved salmon sushi, and he proposed a heliocentric model of the solar system, placing the sun at the center and the Earth revolving around it. Wow, what a concept! And yet, 1,500 years later, some poor guy would be put on the hot seat when he proposed this radical idea. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you heard of him. But while his ideas were not widely accepted at his time, his work represents a remarkably early step towards modern astronomy. Though he worked primarily in Rhodes, Hipparchus made crucial astronomical observations and developed sophisticated models of the motion of the sun and moon, credited with the creating of a star catalog, determining the precession of equinoxes, and developing a system of stellar magnitudes. His work laid the groundwork for Ptolemy's later geocentric models. In medicine and biology, we have Hierophil. Oh God, these Greek names are going to be the death of me. And I just decided, let's do all of them. All of them.
I mean, it's your
Hierophilus.
own fault.
It is my own fault, you know. Hierophilus and Aristatus. Well, that's probably not it either. Oh,
Erasistratus.
that one. We're going to call him E. Made a groundbreaking contribution to anatomy and physiology through the, well, we'll say controversial, practice of human dissection. I'm sure that in that Egyptian heat, that was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but which was likely permitted under the early Ptolemies. Which I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, like the ancient Egyptians probably had no problem with, I mean, like within reason, I guess, with this. It's like if you're in, I guess if you're already in there, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I think it, like maybe I take that back a little bit. I know there's a lot of sacred ritual that comes involved with like, of course, mummification and stuff, but like there was so much taboo in every other culture about even touching a dead body, let
Mm-hmm.
alone getting in there.
Oh,
So, like, I mean,
absolutely.
look at what happened with Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, that was still going on again 1,500 years later. So, but Herophilus studied the nervous system, and he described the ventricles of the brain and differentiated between sensory and motor nerves. While E, because that's what I'm calling him, investigated the circulatory system and the function of the heart. Their empirical approach significantly advanced medical knowledge at that time. In geography, as mentioned earlier, E made significant contributions, including his own calculation of the Earth's circumference and his attempts to create more accurate map of the known world. Later geographers like Strabo, although working at the end of the Ptolemaic period and into the Roman era, drew heavily upon geographical knowledge accumulated in Alexandria.
Mm-hmm. So, why was Alexandria such a scientific hotbed? What was their secret sauce to their proverbial Big Mac? Several factors contributed to the remarkable scientific advancement in Ptolemaic Alexandria. The Ptolemies actively supported intellectual pursuits, providing funding, resources, including the library and museum, and a stable environment for scholars. Their interest in knowledge and their desire to enhance the prestige of their capital were key drivers. The Great Library and Museum provided a vast repository of knowledge and a collaborative environment for scholars from diverse backgrounds. The sheer concentration of texts and the opportunity for intellectual exchange fostered innovation. Alexandria's multicultural environment exposed scholars to a variety of ideas and perspectives from different cultures, potentially stimulating new lines of inquiry. Finally, while rooted in Greek theoretical frameworks, Alexandrian science increasingly emphasized empirical observation and experimentation, particularly in fields like medicine and astronomy. So, unfortunately, alas, all good things eventually fade.
Wah,
Over
wah.
time, particularly during periods of internal strife and increasing Roman influence, the intense focus on scientific research in Alexandria gradually waned. The decline of the Ptolemaic dynasty led to reduced funding and instability, impacting the intellectual climate. While Alexandria remained a significant center of learning into the Roman era, the groundbreaking discoveries of its early Ptolemaic period were not consistently matched in later centuries. Christians. And that whole thing later with Hypatia really killed the vibe. Christians.
It did
Still,
not end well for her.
no.
We're
What
not going
a
to dive into
run it
that
was,
because,
though. What a run it
uh,
was, though.
yeah, and like we're not going to dive into that one because I'd really love to maybe it'll be a Patreon episode. I'd really love to discuss Hypatia because her story is dark,
Very.
but like I think a necessary story to talk about. Because proves that hey guys, smart women have always existed and made contributions,
Mm-hmm.
and B, and a tale as old as time, smart women get screwed over hard, and we don't like that.
No.
So, so, so moving on. Let's move on to something a little bit more physical and tangible. Ptolemaic art. It's the like a fascinating art history mixtape, blending Hellenistic vibes with the ancient Egyptian traditions. It was a period of both if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and let's try something new. Even with the Greeks calling the shots, ancient Egyptian art wasn't going anywhere. It stuck around, especially in religious spaces and the art commissioned for Egyptians themselves. The grand temples, built or renovated by the Ptolemies, such as at Dendera, Edfu, and Philae, continue to be adorned with traditional Egyptian temple reliefs and inscriptions. These monumental carvings depicted the Ptolemaic rulers in the guise of pharaohs performing rituals before Egyptian deities, reinforcing their legitimacy and connection to the land's ancient heritage. While the iconography remained largely Egyptian, subtle Hellenistic influences could sometimes be observed in the rendering of the figures or the inclusion of Greek decorative motifs. Traditional Egyptian burial practices and beliefs also continued, particularly among the native population. So sarcophagi, mummy masks, and amulets were produced in the style of that echoed Pharaonic traditions, albeit while incorporating new materials and techniques. Depictions of the deities and funerary scenes often remained largely consistent with ancient Egyptian iconography and aimed to ensure the deceased passage, not the deceased safe package. Their passage, though, into the afterlife. So, if you want to hear more about this, we do go into a rabbit hole, and that will be on Patreon. It'll
Yep.
be the Fayum Mummy episode, and it's a long one. So if you're a nerd like me for art history stuff, check that one out. Sculptures of Egyptian deities and individuals continue to be created in traditional Egyptian styles, characterized by their formality, frontality, and symbolic attributes. God, I read frontality and I just thought full frontal. Like, I'm a bad person.
You're not a bad person. It's okay. We do word
No, it's
association. We're human.
well, like if you look at like Egyptian statues, it's very like when you think of like Greek stuff, especially once you get like to classical and a little bit beyond that, like in
Mm-hmm.
this period, the Hellenistic period, that's
Mm-hmm.
very dynamic, very dramatic. Like the most famous statue from this time period is the one, and I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, even though I had to write a paper on this like 3 years ago. And it's the one where this guy and his son are being choked out by snakes, and it's real dramatic.
Oh,
Like
good
that's
lord.
typical. Yeah, like if you look it up, it's like if you look up Hellenistic statue, you know, Greek king with his sons, like or whatever, it'll pop up, and
Yeah.
it's real dramatic, y'all. But like comparatively, like the Egyptians, like when you're thinking, it's very much like you're looking at it head on. It's looking straight ahead. It's very geometric. Like it's lifelike, but rigid. It's very frontal. That makes sense. That's a good word for it.
It is.
Yeah. And they were serving religious and commemorative purposes and maintained a direct link to the artistic heritage of millennia past.
Mm-hmm. But then there was the Greek influence, especially in places like Alexandria and among the ruling elite. This artistic language was all about naturalism, dynamism, and showing off human emotion. Think drama, movement, and a lot of elegant drapery. Hellenistic sculpture in Ptolemaic Egypt embraced a wider range of subjects and styles than traditional Egyptian sculpture. Portraiture became highly developed with realistic depictions of the Ptolemaic rulers, often imbued with a sense of individual character and even divinity. Sculptures of Greek gods and goddesses, as well as mythological scenes, adorned public spaces and private residences. The use of marble and bronze allowed for greater dynamism and intricate detail. While fewer examples survive compared to sculpture, painting and mosaics were undoubtedly important art forms. Frescoes likely adorned walls of palaces and wealthy homes, depicting mythological scenes, landscapes, and genre subjects. Mosaics, using small colored stones or glass tesserae, created intricate patterns and figural compositions, often drawing inspiration from Greek mythology and daily life. Pottery and metalwork also reflected Hellenistic styles with elegant forms, decorative motifs such as meanders, floral patterns, and theatrical masks, and sophisticated techniques serving both utilitarian and aesthetic purposes in the Hellenized sectors of society. Hellenistic architectural elements such as Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns, friezes, and pediments became prominent in the construction of temples, public buildings, and private dwellings in Alexandria and other Greek settlements. Sculptural decoration was integrated into architectural designs, further showcasing Hellenistic artistic sensibilities, which I wish we would bring back. I am so tired of the straight lines. Please.
What? You don't love brutalism? You don't love
Oh,
functionalism?
I hate brutalism. Make it pretty, damn it.
What is not to love about our, local plazas? I mean, they're they're practically biodegradable, girl. They're always falling apart. I mean, you don't like gray cubes or beige cubes? That's crazy.
I know, what a wild concept.
I mean, that's that emotional brain again.
I know, damn my emotional brain thing. That.
The bane of plazas near you, Courtney. If one goes up in flames, I'm blaming you. I'm like, she said it right here, guys. She hates
I
them.
did. I did. I absolutely did. I have the gasoline. It's fine. We're good.
So back to the topic, getting us back on course. So far we've done a pretty good job of describing, two separate civilizations almost living side by side, right? But here's where it gets really interesting: the blending of Egyptian and Hellenistic artistic elements. It was like a cultural remix. The creation and popularization of syncretic deities like Serapis led to the development of new artistic representations that combined the iconography of Greek and Egyptian gods. Serapis, for example, was often depicted with the features of a Greek god, like Zeus, Hades, but with the Egyptian attributes such as the modius, which was a grain measure, a headdress, symbolizing fertility and abundance. In some instances, traditional Egyptian artistic forms were adapted to depict Greek subjects, or vice versa. For example, a Ptolemaic ruler might be depicted as a traditional Egyptian pose, with more naturalistic Hellenistic features and attire. Similarly, Greek mythological figures might be incorporated into Egyptian temple reliefs, albeit rendered in a more Egyptian style. While largely adhering to the traditional forms, some funerary art showed subtle Hellenistic influence with rendering of the faces or the inclusion of Greek decorative motifs alongside Egyptian symbols. While these distinct styles largely prevailed, some architectural projects might incorporate both Egyptian and Greek elements, reflecting the dual cultural identity of the ruling class and their desire to appeal to both Greek and Egyptian subjects. Alexandria, as a capital and a major cosmopolitan center, was undoubtedly primarily primary crucible for artistic innovation and the fusion of styles. The presence of both Greek and Egyptian artists, the patronage of the Ptolemaic court, and the diverse cultural influence circulating within the city fostered a unique artistic environment. While much of Alexandria's grandeur has been lost to time, surviving sculptures, pottery fragments, and depictions from ancient writers hint that the city's artistic richness and creative interplay between different artistic traditions.
Art in Ptolemaic Egypt served various purposes, reflecting the diverse needs and beliefs of its multicultural society. Both Egyptian and Greek artistic traditions continued to serve fundamental religious functions, adorning temples, depicting deities, and facilitating worship. The Ptolemies strategically utilized art as royal propaganda to legitimize their rule, presenting themselves as both Hellenistic monarchs and the successor to the pharaohs, with portraiture and temple reliefs playing a crucial role in conveying their power and divine connection. So, God Kings.
Yeah,
Sculptures, portraits, and funerary art also served for personal commemoration, reflecting individual status and beliefs. Finally, art adorned public spaces, private residences, and utilitarian objects, serving as decoration and display, reflecting the aesthetic tastes and cultural affiliations of their owners. The art from this time stands as a testament to the complex cultural interactions of the Hellenistic period. It demonstrates how different artistic traditions can coexist, influence one another, and even fuse to create new and unique forms of expression. While the dominant artistic language of the ruling elite was undoubtedly Hellenistic, the enduring power of the Egyptian artistic traditions ensured their continued presence and influence. The resulting artistic landscape provides valuable insights into the cultural identity and the dynamic interplay of power and tradition in this fascinating era of Egyptian history.
absolutely. So, all right, let's talk fashion, darling. Fashion. Fashion and oh, the gay came out a little. Fashion in Ptolemaic Egypt wasn't just about looking good. It was about a vibrant statement about who you were, where you came from, and how much clout you had. It was a fascinating blend of practical Egyptian style and Hellenistic flair. The foundation of Ptolemaic fashion was undeniably ancient Egyptian. When it's hot, you want light, flowy garments, right? We ain't looking for that stiff wool.
Oh,
You
God,
know?
no.
Mm-mm. Just it just makes sense.
Hmm.
So, perhaps not surprising, breathable linen and silk were king. For men, the basic garment was the shenty, or loincloth or kilt, often pleated or gathered, with its length and in, elaborateness indicating social status. Upper class men might wear longer, more elaborate kilts. They're like kilty looking, and
Hmm.
sheer linen tunics or robes. To me, it's giving eleganza. It's giving a little spicy. Like, I'm sorry, sheer linen. It's giving like those crop tops or like those like jerseys where you can see a man's nipples through, like that were real big in the '80s, and like everyone's like they weren't gay, they were super hetero. I'm like, okay, who's that for? I
Maybe. Maybe.
don't know. It sounds hot, but so with that being said, jewelry, including necklaces, bracelets, and rings, were common, particularly among the wealthy, of course, and wigs and elaborate hairstyles were also popular, often adorned with ornamentation. For women, so let's be real, these guys were borderline drag. Like, come on, they're wearing wigs, they got their jewelry, they got their
I
sheer
mean,
tunics that
yes and
seductively
no.
hide their nipples. You know,
And no. The way that I see it is it's a little bit more androgynous. It's not necessarily drag, but it is
I know.
appreciation of the form, and I'm kind of living for it.
I mean, I know, but way to all of a sudden become a stoic girl. Like, let me be
I'm
emotional.
terrible. I'm terrible. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
God,
I do
pick
value
a
your
lane.
emotion. I know, I'm terrible.
Pick a lane. For the ladies, close-fitting, ankle-length dresses, often made of fine, sheer linen, were typical. These dresses could be simple or elaborately plaited and adorned with beadwork and embroidery. Overdresses or shawls were often worn for warmth or as an added layer of elegance. Like men, Egyptian women favored jewelry, wigs, and elaborate hairstyles, and they used cosmetics extensively, including kohl for eyeliner, rouge for cheeks, and henna for hair and nails. They were serious about their glam girls, and especially compared to those insufferable stuffy Romans. Oh God, no, for real though. Like when the Romans come along, like their big thing with like the Greeks and especially like the Alexandrians and Cleopatra was like, oh my God, they're so obsessed with like clothes, like they're just not practical. They're all effeminate because God forbid a man takes care of himself and actually wants to look good.
I
God
mean,
forbid a woman is wearing.
you can't take fashion advice from the unwashed. I'll put it that way.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know how watch these people were either, but like the point is that like, look, it's hot out. Bitches are letting their titties hang out, okay? And yes, guys are wearing sheer tops because let's be real, more practical standpoint, baby Greek, they're going to get burnt. That sunburn. They didn't have sunscreen, so you know what? They're wearing their elegant muumuu, and you know what? Fuck you, Rome, with your togas and your wool. Ugh.
Ugh.
But when I'm just like I'm mad at people who don't even exist anymore.
No, it's because the mentality has lived on. Even
It's
though,
true. It's
even
true.
though, like the
It's like
Romans, as we are depicting them, as they are written about in history, those are long dead and
mhm.
gone. No, their spirit lives on, and it's insufferable.
Well, think about like I mean, it happens to men too, but really, really happens to women. Think about it. Say you have a girl, right, and she's wearing a crop top and some shorts, like in the summer. How many older men, especially older men, make comments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or somehow it's tied to their sexuality. Let's not even acknowledge the fact that here in New York, it's been like 95 degrees for like 4 weeks with no rain, and we're all dying from like heat stroke. Like, well, she should cover up. Meanwhile, guys can have like those tanks where the like sleeves like are down to like their fucking love handles, like you can see
Oh
side boob,
yeah.
all of that, and that's different. Well, it's hot. Like what of course there's a double standard, and of course that legacy kind of continues to this day where it's like we
Mm-hmm.
judge people based off what they're dressed, and like somehow that gives us some kind of moral high ground. But sometimes it's hot and you just want to not deal with boob sweat, okay?
I mean, humidity is a thing, and it's awful. Okay.
And sometimes you just want to wear a little color and have some fun.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with you. Mind your business. But back on topic. We're getting this back on way off road here. Back on track. But when the Greeks arrived, they brought their own fashion sensibilities, especially to cities among the ruling elite. Greek men wore tunics, chitons, of varying lengths, often made of wool or linen. Which, God, the wool thing, ugh, ugh,
Yeah.
in that heat and humidity, ugh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't. Also, cloaks, hematians, for warmth or formal occasions. Greek women wore chitons as well, often draped and fastened with pins called fibulae, and favored lighter fabrics like linen and silk. Again, see, this is like it's around here too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's that toxic masculinity. It's like we are associating silk and linen with femininity.
I don't want that
Like it's
women
okay
fabric.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I'm glad they allowed these poor girls to like, wear something breathable. But like, Fabric doesn't have a gender. If it's hot, just wear the crap that feels good.
Exactly. Here.
But silk, as we keep hearing, was imported from the East when available. So it's also showing these connections with China. Like, again, there's a global culture cap. There's globalization happening here, things I don't think we associate too much. But Greek clothing emphasized drapery and natural flow of fabric, a contrast to the more structured forms of Egyptian dress. Greek jewelry, often made with gold and silver, featured intricate designs and gemstones, with necklaces, earrings, bracelets, and diadems being popular. Greek hairstyles were often simpler than the elaborate Egyptian wigs, with women favoring braids, buns, and headbands.
So here's where the real fashion magic happened. In places
Fashion.
like Alexandria. Fashion magic. In places like Alexandria, where cultures mixed, people started mixing their wardrobes. Evidence suggests that some individuals adopted a blend of Egyptian and Greek styles. For example, a man might wear a Greek tunic with Egyptian jewelry, or a woman might wear a close-fitting Egyptian dress but with Greek-style drapery or accessories. Greek fabrics like silk and finer linens became popular among wealthy Egyptians, while Greek tailors likely adapted to Egyptian designs to suit the local climate and preferences. The fusion of styles. I love it though.
What a concept. It's hot. The locals know how to dress for it.
Mm-hmm.
Take that wool fucking shawl and burn it. God.
Mm-hmm. All day, baby, all day. So the fusion of styles could also carry symbolic meaning. For example, depictions of Ptolemaic rulers sometimes show them wearing Egyptian garments, but within Greek hairstyles or jewelry, visually representing their dual cultural identity. It was basically fashion as political propaganda, something our leading lady Cleopatra would be a master of later on. In Ptolemaic Egypt, your clothes were more than just fabric. They were a billboard for your social status, ethnicity, and even your religious beliefs. The quality of fabrics, the elaborateness of decoration, and the amount of jewelry worn all signified wealth and social standing. With finer linens, intricate pleating, and the use of precious metals being hallmarks of the upper classes. While fusion occurred, distinct styles often marked individuals as Greek or Egyptians. Greeks tended to favor draped garments and simpler hairstyles, while Egyptians often retained more structured forms and elaborate wigs. Priests and priestesses wore distinct garments and headdresses associated with their specific cults, and the depictions of deities in art provides invaluable insights into the clothing worn by religious figures.
So, there you have it. A grand tour of Ptolemaic Egypt's vibrant culture, from its fascinating linguistic landscape to its groundbreaking science, its unique art, and its statement-making fashion. It was a period where two mighty civilizations collided, blended, and created something truly extraordinary. It just goes to show sometimes the best things happen when you mix it up a little. So, next time, we will take a long, hard look at the Jerry Springer episode that was those crazy Ptolemies. Guys, these people were seriously messy, and it wasn't because of the rampant inbreeding, even though there was plenty of that too.
Now, as you know, we are a new podcast and we are always looking to please the dark magic that is the algorithm. So, wherever you are listening to this, whether it be Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or YouTube, if you like us, take the time to give us a positive review. It really goes a long way for us. We also have a Patreon and we are constantly putting stuff up. So, if you want to take a look at that, give us a follow. It helps us out a lot.
If you have any ideas, comments, or just want to say hi, you can reach us at the Time Travelers Club Podcast at gmail.com. We love it when people say hi. And as always, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.